a swollen body leaking pus into royal bedsheets, a stench so powerful it cleared entire chambers. And when the king finally died, his coffin exploded. This wasn't just death. It was divine retribution. His skin blistered like boiled meat. His breath reeked of rot. His mind shattered into fractured shadows. And his kingdom? It trembled beneath the weight of his body and his crimes. Because the man who ruled it all, King Henry VIII, wasn't just dying. He was decaying, alive, in public, in real time, in velvet robes, under golden canopies, with the eyes of God, court, and country watching. This is the version they never taught you. The one scraped from records, erased from diaries, buried beneath royal propaganda and oil portraits. Because if you knew how England's greatest king died, you might start questioning how he lived. So if you're ready to uncover what historians spent 500 years burying, subscribe now. Because this story, it only gets darker from here. Let's rewind. Not to the deathbed, but to the pedestal. Henry Tudor, the Renaissance dream, crowned at 17, towering, golden curls, skin like polished ivory, a waist like a knight, legs like a warhorse. The court didn't just praise him, they worshipped him. And he believed them. He sang, he danced, he hunted, he jousted, he painted, he composed sonnets. He spoke 6 languages and quoted the Bible to his mistresses. They called him England's Apollo, a divine gift from heaven. But underneath the charm, a crack waited. And in 1536, it split. January 24, Greenwich Palace. A jousting match, thousands watching, trumpets blare, Henry charges, his armor a mirror of steel, cheers rise. Then a crash, a bone-rattling impact. His horse collapses, he is crushed under 1,500 pounds of armored fury, and then nothing. Not a movement, not a breath. 5 minutes, 10, 2 hours. England thought their god-king was dead. Courtiers fell to their knees. Ambassadors fled to send word home. The Queen was inconsolable. A bishop began preparing funeral rites. But then, he woke up. Only something had changed. Some said it was his memory. Others said it was his soul. But everyone agreed Henry was not the same. And his leg? It never healed. The wound was deep, a crush injury, the kind that destroys tissue from the inside. Doctors couldn't stitch it. They couldn't clean it. They couldn't reach it. The infection spread. They tried everything. Boiling herbs, honey compresses, cauterizing with burning irons, leached blood until he fainted, powdered coral, ground emeralds, even mummy flesh stolen from tombs in Egypt, crushed and mixed into salves. Nothing worked. Then came the stench. Let that sink in. The most powerful man in England reeked of death. One ambassador said he could smell Henry from across the throne room. Another refused to enter unless the windows were open. A third claimed a fog of rot hung around him like incense. His wound leaked constantly. Bandages soaked through hourly. Some days, blood poured down his boots. Other days, it was blackened pus, thick as oil. His doctors now believe he had chronic osteomyelitis, an infection that eats into the bone. It causes fever, delirium, nerve death, bone softening, tissue necrosis, unending pain. And with it came a dependency. Henry drank wine not for pleasure but to numb the agony. He gorged himself not for decadence but to mask the nausea. He took opiates. He smoked strange imported herbs. Some say his physicians began giving him mercury-based tonics to cleanse his humors. What it gave him was madness. Every night, he ate like he could fill the hole in his body with food. Roasted swans with beaks painted gold, peacocks with feathers still on, deer heart pâté, sugared violets, spiced mead, dates soaked in rosewater, 5,000 to 8,000 calories per sitting. He believed the animals gave him power. Swans for grace, boars for strength, oysters for virility. But what it gave him was weight. His waist ballooned to 54 inches. He weighed over 400 pounds. He could no longer walk unaided. He needed to be wheeled through court on a wooden platform, like a statue. And his skin? It split open under the pressure. Cracks formed on his legs, belly, arms. One ulcer on his thigh opened so wide you could see the bone gleam beneath. Servants packed it with linen soaked in wine and vinegar, but the wine boiled in the wound. Physicians tried to cut away dead tissue, but it grew back blacker. His leg was dying, and so was his mind. Still, he ruled. Still, he married. Still, he executed. You've heard the rhyme. Divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. But that's for children. He didn't lose wives. He consumed them. Catherine of Aragon cast aside like a relic, banished from court, forbidden from seeing her daughter, stripped of her title as queen. She died alone in a cold, rat-infested estate, still wearing her wedding ring, still praying for a man who had already remarried. Anne Boleyn crowned a queen, then called a whore. She was forced to watch her brother and 4 men she'd barely spoken to be executed for adultery with her. Then she mounted the scaffold herself. One eyewitness wrote that her lips kept moving after the axe fell. Jane Seymour, the one he called his true wife. She gave him what no other woman could, a son. And days later, she died of infection from a torn womb. Henry wore black for a year. But secretly, he sent portraits to foreign courts just 9 days later, asking for a new bride. Catherine Howard, a child bride, barely out of puberty, married to a man 3 times her size. When her past lovers were exposed, Henry passed a new law. It was treason for a woman to not be a virgin when marrying the king. She was dragged to execution, screaming for her mother. And Catherine Parr? She survived him, but only because he died first. This isn't a love story. It's a blood ritual. Marriage wasn't union. It was submission. Failure to please meant death. And Henry? He was always hungry. But it didn't stop at his wives. Henry's court was a slaughterhouse. He executed over 70,000 people. That's more than Nero, more than Caligula, more than Ivan the Terrible. He boiled men alive. He burned women at the stake for heresy, which sometimes just meant owning a Bible in English. He hanged priests, then cut them down alive to be disemboweled while conscious. He had his best friend, Sir Thomas More, executed for refusing to call him head of the church. He had More's head boiled and displayed on London Bridge. When it rotted too badly, he replaced it with another. One man was killed for dreaming that the king would die. Not saying it, not writing it, just dreaming it. Let that sit for a moment. You could be boiled for your dreams. And as the bodies piled up, so did the madness. Henry began to unravel. He'd wake screaming. Guards reported hearing him converse with ghosts. Anne Boleyn at the foot of the bed. Jane Seymour whispering from the fireplace. Thomas More appearing in mirrors, weeping blood. He shouted at furniture, demanded his own painting be excommunicated. One night, he He confessed his sins to a tapestry, thinking it was a bishop. Was it guilt? Brain rot? A result of heavy metal poisoning from the mercury tonics? Modern historians now believe he suffered from vascular dementia, brought on by a mix of obesity, trauma, and repeated strokes. He forgot names, repeated sentences, wrote death warrants, then forgot who they were for. One report says he signed the same execution order 5 times in 1 hour each, with a different signature. His body was disintegrating, his legs black, his feet burst open, toes infected, skin split. Bandages couldn't keep up. Servants rotated duty because none could stomach the stench. One fainted mid-dressing, another vomited on the floor and was flogged for disrespect. His beard was matted with wine and pus. His teeth fell out when he chewed. He sweated through 5 shirts a day. His urine came out like ink. His fingernails turned green. And still he ruled. He ordered mass executions from his bath chair. He held court while packed with linens soaked in rosewater to mask the decay. One courtier wrote, "To sit near him was to feel death's breath on the neck." But what haunts me most, he knew he was rotting. He screamed for God, then cursed him. He begged for Jane Seymour, then accused her ghost of betrayal. He threw his crown at a priest, then begged him for absolution in the same breath. Imagine watching your king rot while still fearing him. They say the greatest pain of dying is knowing you're still alive. Henry lived that pain for months. Every creak of his bones, every infected breath, every bandage soaked in pus was a reminder: gods may rule, but even they rot. January 27th, 1547. Palace of Whitehall. The king lies motionless. Sheets soaked. Air thick. Curtains drawn. He hasn't spoken in days. His breathing is shallow. The room is deathly still. They summon his confessor. A trembling priest approaches the bedside. He leans in. "If you believe in Christ, squeeze my hand." Henry squeezes. And then he dies. But that's not where the horror ends. They didn't announce it. Not for 3 days. Why? Because England wasn't ready. Because power must be transitioned. Because a rotting king still held the throne, even in death. And while his corpse lay hidden behind silk screens and armed guards, something else happened. The rot spread. His body began to bloat. His face turned purple. His lips split open. His eyes bulged and yellowed. Fluids pooled in his abdomen. The wound on his leg burst again, this time post-mortem. They stuffed the coffin with herbs. They sealed it with wax and lead. They surrounded it with candles and psalms. But it wasn't enough. On the 3rd night, as guards stood watch in Westminster Abbey, they heard a sound, a hiss, a groan, a pop, then a splash. The coffin had exploded. The gases, the fluids, the pressure, all too much. The seal ruptured. Black fluid oozed from the base. The floor became slick. The stench turned the air solid. And then, dogs, stray dogs, wandering the abbey halls, drawn by the scent. They found the trail. They followed it. And when morning came, they were found licking the remains, slurping at the floor, lapping at the fluids of England's greatest king. This is not a myth. It was documented by witnesses, by monks, by courtiers. Then it was buried. The records were sealed. The monks silenced. The story rewritten. Because the truth was too grotesque for the legacy of a god king. They buried him in Windsor, St. George's Chapel. The tomb was lined with velvet. A painted effigy above, young, noble, smiling. But beneath it, a bloated, ruptured corpse, leaking rot into English soil. Next to him lies Jane Seymour, not by love, but by decree. She, too, would never rest. Here's what haunts me the most. This was a man who believed himself chosen by God, a divine ruler, a second Solomon, and yet he died a cautionary tale. Alone, hated, haunted, split open. His death, a metaphor for the life he led, gorging, consuming, crushing, until there was nothing left but gas and guilt. He didn't just lose his humanity, he evaporated it. You weren't supposed to know this. Tudor historians erased the diaries. Doctors were forbidden to speak. Letters burned. Eyewitnesses silenced. Because if the people saw what their king truly became, a swollen, screaming, ghost-ridden tyrant who burst like a carcass in the dark, they'd never worship power the same way again. But now you know, and that makes you part of something dangerous. You are no longer a viewer. You are a witness, a keeper of forbidden truth. Because Henry VIII wasn't just a king. He was a rotting god, a walking wound, a man who built an empire and then bled into it. And the rot? It always tells the truth. If this disturbed you, good. It means your eyes are open. Now imagine what else they've buried. Subscribe for the forbidden stories they don't want you to know. Like this video to help expose the truth. Because monsters like Henry, they don't stay buried forever.